Win big with new DRF All Access Past Performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all 3 past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux taking a look at race number 10 at Santa Anita on Saturday. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 2 City of Hope Mile. $200,000 is the purse, and we have one of the better turf horses in the country, the number 3 Johannes, looking to go into the Breeders' Cup Mile in sterling form. He's won his last 3.
Yeah, Johannes has just been such a fun horse to watch for Tim Yakteen and just has done pretty much everything right to this point in his career, a 6-time winner from those 10 starts. And I like his versatility. I felt like 2 back in the Shoemaker Mile, he was able to sit further off of it. More recently in the Eddie Reed, he was a little bit closer to the pace on the stretch out, and he was still an easy winner in that spot. So a lot to like about him, but looking at some others in here, Astronomer was a strong third in his last outing. De Jour's had some good races. Paxawallop was a game second last time out. A lot of horses in here to like.
Including one of the better 3-year-old turf horses, the 6 Trickery, going out for Graham Motion. Let's see where Timeform US has the 3 Johannes and the others after the first half mile. It's a race where Timeform US believes it will favor front runners. Paxawallop does have speed, and the great news for Johannes is he can sit right off.
Yeah, Paxawallop has just been forward, especially in those last 2 outings. And last time out, he just sat second in a trip that was not going to be the winning one. Air Force Red took them gate to wire. So I think, in terms of here, I don't think the pace is going to be all that hot for a mile event. I think it'll just be honest, moderate fractions.
Millionaire du Jour, the number 1, goes out for Bob Baffert. He's a horse that when you give him a very good trip, as you did in the Kilroe, he can parlay it into a victory. He ran an okay 4th last time out in the Del Mar Mile, only beaten 3/4 of a length. He was wired that day by Conclude. He needs to get a little bit closer to the pace, I think.
I just feel like last year at this time is where he started to blossom and say, July, August, September, he was doing well. Then the Breeders' Cup Mile, too tough for him. He was able to regroup, but his races have been pretty spaced out. We see that sometimes from Bob, right, where a horse will race a big race and they'll go to the shelf for 3 months, and that's sort of normal. I just felt like in his last 2 consecutive efforts, he's needed more. He's took a lot of love in those races and simply has to face those rivals again, and 4 of them, they finished in front of him.
The 2 Irideo was a 1-run closer dependent on race and pace luck. He didn't get that pace last time out in the Del Mar Mile, but he sure did 2 starts back in the Wicker, and he did not fire his best shot after being very fractious behind the gate. He needs to run much better.
Yeah, I don't know. Lately, the mile hasn't been working for him. When you go to his races at 6.5, I felt like he was a little bit better on the downhill, and he was able to get the pace setup that he needed. I mean, when he strikes, he's usually a huge price. So you'll get him at a big price in here, but he's going to need to do much better than he did in the Del Mar Mile.
Let's watch Johannes win the Eddie Reed last time out. Good tactical speed, sat second, pounced at the right time, turning for home, turned it into a procession in the stretch. This guy has just gotten very, very good for Yakteen, and another good trip is likely.
Yeah, you have to love this horse. He's just been putting everything together now, especially as a 4-year-old. I feel like he's continued to go in those 3 starts undefeated now this season, and just thought he won this race simply for fun. And to me, it's just his running style. I said it earlier. I think he can be forward. I think he can sit a little further off of it. And when he makes his move, he makes it known. He makes a big move, and then he gets comfortable in the front.
Paxawallop, the 4, was a graded stakes winner over course and distance as a 2-year-old. He now makes his 3rd start for Jeff Mullins. Sat just off the pace last time out when wired by Air Force Red. I think this race flow will work for him because he's likely to get to the front and back down the fractions. We'll find out if he's graded stakes class or Johannes class.
And he's tried graded stakes, competition in the past. I know it was a different ballgame. It was a 2-year-old compared to a 4-year-old. And I think kind of looking at earlier this season, they had him at Turfway Park. He had a bad performance, then a good performance. He's been a little bit all over the place. But I will say, since returning to California, Jeff Mullins has done a good job with him. He's hit the board in both of those efforts. And again, they're not stakes races, but I know that the quality was in those races. And if he can take a step forward, combining that with the trip that he figures to get, he could stick around.
Easter, the number 5, really came into form last fall and into the winter for Phil D'Amato. And after a 2nd place finish in the Kilroe, it just seemed like he tailed off form. He doesn't break very well from the gate. I like the fact that they've given him time since his last race to rebound. He's going to need some pace up, and he's got to get out of the gate better, but he's got a lot of back class.
Yeah, last fall, we were kind of hyping him up and talking about how he was one of the best turf horses out in California. And his last 2 suggest maybe differently, but he's had time off in between those races. They tried the blinkers on last time out. It was a failed experiment. They removed those. I like that. Like that phrase who sticks with him here. I think Phil D'Amato having the confidence to just say, you know what, we're going back in a graded stake. We're going to do this. We're going to go back to a mile. I think there's some things to like. Going back to his Frank Kilroe mile, that was a huge second. DuJour ended up winning it, but I still thought it was a really nice performance from him. So curious to see how the betting public will support him here, Dan, when we handicap this no morning line. He could, offer, I think, maybe some sneaky value here.
The great Graham Motion is often cautious, and I think it's a very good sign that he's shipping the 6 Trickery out to Southern California for his first start against older horses. He scored last time out at Colonial. What was most important about that win, he's won, 4 out of his last 5, is that he finally got a figure, a 96. It looks like he's blossoming.
Yeah, he's certainly blossomed. He loves the turf, but he's really been good on turf, Tapeta, synthetic at this point in his career. He's done it all. And I just like the style that he has. At a mile and 3/16, he was a little closer, but when they cut him back to a mile, he was able to get a mid-pack trip and still much the best in this race. So we're never going to get the value that we got on him on Kentucky Derby weekend, but since then, he's done everything right.
Astronomer is a very useful horse. I thought he got good trips in his last 2 races, and the Wicker behind a fast pace. He followed the winner on the turn and just couldn't finish with that one. And last time out, he sat the pocket. Conclude got the best trip. I thought Astronomer had the second best trip.
He hasn't been in the winner's circle in a year, but I thought looking at this race, as we look at the top 3 in here, specifically in the Del Mar Mile, he does what he needs to do. I thought Kazushi has gotten along with him very well in those last 2. I think that's been sort of a reason for his improved performances. And again, he'll need to take another step forward. But last time out, they made the conscious decision to have him a little bit closer. And I think that's because of the pace in there. It was a little bit slower than that race 2 starts back. And, he's not beaten by much in there and only half a length behind the winner.
And Almendarez, we saw rally for second in that race. He might have been the one compromised the most by the race flow. It wasn't fast. Conclude went gate to wire. Astronomer sat the pocket. This horse had to do work on the outside. Does he get a similar race flow here, and does that compromise him?
Yeah, I don't know what flow he's going to get in here. He's had some pace to run at 2 starts back, and first piece, was able to win that race pretty easy. Astronomer was in front of him. He was able to flip the tables on Astronomer last time out. I thought he was rolling really nicely late. I believe he was cross-centered in another spot that weekend, and they picked that race for him. It was the right move. We'll see if he can take another step forward. It just feels like he's tried so hard in these stakes races, and he's almost getting there, and I'm wondering what will be the difference maker. Maybe it's Flavien Prat.
And Wild Time Form US has the 4 on the lead. Don't be surprised if Conclude is quarter horsed out of there to grab the front, because it seems like that is his preferred running style, as we saw in the Del Mar Mile. I didn't like that he failed to change leads in the stretch, but he was very, very game. He's speedy, he's talented, and he could take this field a long way if he gets a breather.
Yeah, all but one of his 5 wins have been gate-to-wire fashion. They certainly let him have the lead last time out, and they were closing. We saw that. The horses were trying to get to him in the final stages. They couldn't. So I think with the outside draw and his early turn of foot, he's going to shake things up early.
Top pick time in the City of Hope Mile on Saturday. Ashley, we're going with Johannes, although we must admit, this is a tougher field than what he's been used to.
It is, but just to watch how he runs, and it's been pretty effortless to this point in his career. I think he's the real deal. I think there are other horses to like in here, Trickery being one of them, Conclude on the outside. It's a 9-horse field. We have the same top 4, just a little bit of a different order. I'm just most excited, I think, about the 3 in here, just based on what we've seen.
3695 for Ashley, 395.6 for me in the Grade 2 City of Hope Mile. We'll see if Johannes's roll keeps on going. Hey, buddy, you look like you're in need of a winner. And just remember, if you like and subscribe right over here, you can get all of the great content on DRF.com, including Race of the Day, stakes previews, and lots more, featuring me and my superb selections. Trust me, you're not going to regret it.